So now we're going to talk about step 4, which is your lesson plan. So having a plan for each objective. So for the first objective, so I have here, I'm going to take this objective again, and then I'm going to paste my objective here. Students will be able to ask 3 questions and answer 3 questions about key details in a nonfiction text read aloud using an anchor chart with question words and sentence frames to support discussion by the end of the unit. So what instructional strategy will I use? So if I go here, just a reminder, right? The I do is the modeling phase, the we do is the guided practice, and the you do is independent. When you think about how do you do your I do, we do, you want to think about kind of the time frame. So depending on the age, right? So for preschool, it's the lower end. For 5th, 6th grade, it's the higher end. So if I'm doing kindergarten, right, I'm going to probably stick to like a 7-minute I do, a 7-minute you do, and 7-minute we do, and maybe a 10-minute you do, or 15-minute you do. So you really don't want to push it, right, if they're younger. So when you're planning, kind of think about the time frame that this is going to be taking place in. And then also, if you were to think about, when you're thinking about the materials, again, if you were to replicate this, if somebody else was to replicate this, if I was to take this and I was to go and teach it, right, what materials do I need to teach it, and what materials do the students need? And then be specific, right? So that's going to help with the planning and preparation. You could include like a checklist of materials, and then in the appendix you can put pictures if you want of what the materials could look like, things like that, just to kind of give it more visuals support. So again, if I go here, and this is my objective, so ask 3 questions, answer 3 questions about key details. So I do, right? So what am I going to do? The instructional strategy. Here's our Padlet link for the instructional strategies that we did in class. So if I want, right, so I might do think aloud is what I might do, right, in order to ask and answer questions while reading the nonfiction text. So that might be the instructional strategy that I use. So I'm going to start, I will have a nonfiction book about plants, right? And so now I'm like, okay, well, now I just realized I have no idea what nonfiction book about plants I'm going to read. So I'm going to look up nonfiction books about plants for kindergarten students. And I'm going to look at all of these really great books. I can even go to videos. Maybe I want this one looks really good, this National Geographic Kids. Air. So maybe this is the one I'm going to use. And I can even include this link if I want. So plants, called Plants by National Geographic Kids. So it's this book here, called Plants by National Geographic Kids. So if this is the book that I'm going to use, I can include the link to as a part of my materials. So here in my materials, I'm going to put the link to the book. So students will read a nonfiction book about plants by National Geographic Kids. And then here's the book link here that I can make sure it's included. And I watch the YouTube video so I can see, okay, this is appropriate for kindergarten. So a nonfiction book called Plants by National Geographic Kids. I will stop and think aloud and model for students how to ask questions using the question words anchor chart. I will also model for students how to use what we are reading to answer my questions. I can record these on chart paper. So then, okay, now I need chart paper and I need markers too, right? And then maybe I could even include in my appendix here, I can include visual, right? Visual of what my Q&A anchor chart can look like. Right, so maybe I can use a table to draw it. I can find a picture here if I want. I can copy and paste this picture here, showing the book that I would use. So this is, the National Geographic, so book for read aloud. If I want to put it here just as like an appendix, make sure if you put anything in the appendix, just caption it so it's not just random images. But like I said, I just added this section just to really help give the person looking at this lesson plan just a way to really understand how you're doing it. So if I want, or let's say I have question word anchor chart. There's a ton of, question word anchor charts I could use. So here's a question word anchor chart. I can copy this in there and I can put that in my lesson plan too. So here, question word anchor chart. So you really want, so if I'm saying I'm going to use it, I want to make sure that I have a really good understanding of what that's going to look like. And here's why. Because oftentimes I see people in this I do, we do, you do part, they say they're going to use visuals, they say they're going to use anchor charts, but when we go to actually teach the lesson, they don't have any of that stuff. So having this understanding of even though you're not teaching this plan, having that understanding of what is my anchor chart possibly going to look like? What is my formative checklist possibly going to look like? What book am I actually going to be reading, right? Having all of these things documented for yourself really helps to visualize a lesson in your head and to give the person reading it to show that you really understand what you're teaching and why and how you're doing it. So for my I do, right, I'm saying that my strategy is I'm going to think aloud and model, and I explain how I'm going to do that, right? Remember, the I do is this is my show. Then the we do, you do. So I'm going to say, for we do, I will have students pair up and I will have students pair up, think, pair, share, which is another instructional strategy, and practice asking and answering questions. And then the you do, I will give students an exit ticket with a question, and they can answer it with words or drawings. Because remember, kindergarten is just starting to learn how to write, so they might just be able to create a drawing and label it. Some might be able to write a little bit more. So, and then I'm also going to ask them to tell me one question, and I can write it down for them. So that's then my you do section. And then again, right, what do I need? So chart paper, markers, maybe I need like some kind of special paper, because I will tell you in advance, if you give a kindergartner just a blank piece of paper, it's going to be really hard for them. So maybe I want like some sort of graphic organizer where they can actually have a box, right, with a picture box and lined paper, right? So they can, so I will put here like writing paper kindergarten, and then you can see this is exactly what you would give a kindergarten student, something like this. You would never give a kindergarten student just, a blank piece of paper. So maybe then I will put that here so that this is what I'm going to give them, and what I need, so they can draw a picture, of something, of an answer to a question, and then they can write it here. So that's how you would do this part. And again, you're doing it for each of your objectives. You need to have the activity that you're going to do, and then your I do, we do, you do, and then what materials you would need. Again, be specific. Think about the instructional strategies. Like, here's the Padlet here. And then you can also include any visuals in the appendix. Make sure you put a caption, and make sure that your materials are also very clear. If you're saying that you're using it in your I do or your we do, make sure it's here in your materials. And you can even, like I said, put any kind of visuals with a caption in your appendix to make it clearer.